Good afternoon, or evening, or morning, as the case may be. Welcome to the August 2025 edition of the MSMF Client Podcast. Gentlemen, how are you?
All right.
Wonderful.
Cody, you're well?
I'm good. Yeah.
Your slew of women at home are all good?
They're all good, and no one's everyone's in good health, and I'm sure when I get home this evening, it'll just be just chaos.
Mass chaos.
That's right.
Nothing wrong with that.
It would be weird if it wasn't.
It would be weird if it wasn't. Kraig, how's your chaos?
Very similar to Cody's right now, yeah. Got two little ones running around everywhere, so I'll be in store for the same thing, I'm sure.
Man, I'm laughing with you guys, not at you.
Appreciate it.
My chaos is mostly done. My chaos just involves dollar signs now. So. All right, so gentlemen, what I thought we could do today, we haven't done a client mailbag in a while. Yep. So thought we'd go through some questions that we've gotten from our clients. One of the great things, as you know, is with our texting system, which is called My Rep Chat for our friends at Compliance that we use with our clients, as well as regular emails, phone calls, meetings, but all those sources of input. We get a lot of very good, knowledgeable questions. So I thought I'd hit you with some of those today.
All right.
You ready?
Perfect.
You sure?
I'm ready.
All right. Cody, I'm starting with you.
All right.
Now, you don't have to worry about this for a decade plus, but the question is, my oldest child is headed off to college. What things do I need to be concerned with?
A lot of things. But
unsupervised child. Okay.
I think we'll focus on the things maybe we can help out. So I think when certainly, your kids are going off to college unsupervised, you forget that
relatively
they are probably of age, 18 years old. They're now an adult. And, as much as you want to and you're their parent, you can't just call up there and get information if something were to happen.
That is true.
Yeah.
So making sure that, you have healthcare power of attorney on them. That way, if something does happen medically, you can actually get information from the healthcare provider. And it, just a normal general power of attorney, giving you the right to kind of make decisions and sign on their behalf for them. Right. So two big things that are certainly overlooked. I didn't even think about it until we started looking through all this, and I was like, oh, wow. Yeah, they would be 18.
Yeah, and I would say that I missed that one for many years with my clients, and I apologize to all of you. I never really connected those dots. I mean, we're not attorneys, but, we try to coach people on things that they should talk to their attorney about, and this is a big one, and it happens actually in high school when sometimes we stop getting the grades when they turn 18.
Yeah.
It's the same thing when they go off to college, and there's bigger things to be concerned about that sometimes you just don't. They're not really in the forefront.
Yeah, it's definitely an eye-opener there.
Right.
And insurance coverages that they have or maybe will have, especially for out-of-state people, making sure your auto insurance is updated, or just asking your agent, hey, usually there's some sort of reprieve in college if they're not actually living in a new state, right? Making sure you have renter's insurance. A lot of places will make you provide that documentation, but not all.
Yeah, correct.
So you never know what can happen. Health. So this is one I didn't even think about. So usually, if the parents are working, you're on your parents' insurance, I think until 26. 26. Is that how it works?
Yep, until 26.
But a lot of times you need to opt out of the university plan, or that could override the plan that you're currently on, and you probably don't want it to override that.
Correct.
Yeah. And liability insurance. We kind of touched on that with the car, but I think it's just things you need to think of and give your agent a call who does that type of stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, stuff. They can also get credit cards when they're 18.
And they'll get solicited a lot.
A lot. Yeah. And in fact, I think when you, your first week of school there, or your pre-week of school, there's booths set up with credit cards, Capital One, and all that kind of fun jazz. So they can set up bank accounts without you knowing it. So just important things, I think, to probably go over them and just say, hey, here's the repercussions if you do open a credit card and you don't pay it. Right?
Yeah.
And so doctor's appointments as well. like that's through the insurance, especially for vision and stuff like that. They're usually on a 12-month rotating period, so like a fiscal year. So if you get, contacts or glasses in the month of August, you're going to have to wait until the next year, August, to get past that 12-month period.
Right.
It doesn't just start again on the calendar year.
Mm-hmm.
So just making sure you're aware of all those things and you don't run into a little pinch that you didn't know you were going to get yourself into.
Yeah, I agree, because there's a lot, and most of the time, not so much with grandparents, but with parents, and they're sending, whether it's their oldest. Now, in my case, when Grace was ready to go, I was like, go get him, Tiger. Don't let the door hit you, Now, when Rose went, the first one, that was traumatic. So none of these things was I thinking about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's just there's a lot to think about when that happens. So great perspective. All right, Mr. Kraig.
All right.
This is a good one that we got not too long ago from a grandparent, and it is, how can I encourage my grandchildren to learn about saving and investing?
Yeah, so this is a really good one. Obviously, here at our firm, we're big advocates of client education, financial education. Unfortunately, in schools, it's not talked about nearly enough. So this is something we're big proponents of. One of the first ways to do that is just, basics. What's a stock? What's a bond? Obviously, reach out to us. We have resources we can provide you for those type of things, mutual funds, ETFs, exchange-traded funds. But even on top of that, looking at, the power of compounding is obviously a big one, especially when they're young. Explaining them, kind of how that works. If you start saving now and invest for the long term, that, a couple $100, couple $1,000 you saved when you're 15 can turn into hundreds of thousands of dollars when you're 40 and 50 and 60 years old. And so as far as how to do that, that's where, once they start working, looking at, they can't open a Roth account. They may not have a 401k or a simple IRA available to them when they first start working, but kind of teaching them that, hey, even though you don't have these accounts available to you, you can always do a Roth IRA or traditional IRA. And you can even make an incentive for them to do that. So, say, if you put in, $1,000 or $2,000, we'll actually match you just like a regular company would for another $1,000 or $2,000 to kind of give that extra incentive to make them start saving. Another way to do that is, I remember I did this when I was young. My parents wanted us to get into.
You're still young.
When I was younger. One of the things my parents tried to do to get us to start learning about the stock market, which I don't know, they still post stock prices in newspapers?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, if you still have a newspaper.
Hold on. These kids wouldn't know what a newspaper
That's true.
is.
Well, you can pull it out and show them what a newspaper is and then show them what their stocks are. But we would pull out the stock section every Sunday and just find a stock that we liked or were interested in, and then a week later we would see whether it went up or down. And then if it was up, we would get $1. If it was down, we would have to give $1. So something like that. Just have them follow a stock, just so they they can see how the stock market kind of works, how it ebbs and flows. Just little games like that to make it interactive, so they stay engaged. Things like that are things that I found are pretty good tools to just get people more knowledgeable about the overall stock market.
Yeah, and you may remember, back in the day, one of the other things that was done is people would buy shares of a stock and actually have a certificate issued.
Mm-hmm.
At Disney used to have the most beautiful multicolor certificates. And so people would buy 1 share of stock or 10 shares at Disney and have their certificate issued and have it framed. And just because it was beautiful, and then you could follow Walt Disney on the stock prices and all those other things. And I think you can still get them issued for a cost. I don't know if they still do like the 4-color certificate, but that's one. And a little more seriously, and we talk about this a lot, and I know you guys are aware of this, because there's only certain states in the United States, Missouri is one, where there's a mandated financial education class for high school students. And unfortunately, the curriculum's mandated as well by the state. And it's more along budgeting. There's not a whole lot of financial literacy taught in those classes.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's parents or grandparents, we highly encourage them to have conversations with their kids about money and saving and investing, because they're just not getting it through primary and secondary education. And you really don't get it unless you start taking finance classes in college. Right. So it's very deficient an area that's very deficient in terms of education for younger people. So, yeah, it's a fantastic question, and I would include parents in that beyond just grandparents. So,
With you.
all right, Cody. We've had all these tariffs, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think we know why. There was, the U.S. trade deficit had gone up by 350% since COVID. The president determined that he was going to be the one that moved the needle on that. I think what happened in the market with the tariffs was pretty along the lines of what we expected. We had a question. I don't know if we're definitely post yet, but where are we headed in this post-tariff economy?
Yeah, well, that's a loaded question.
These opinions are.
Yeah, so remember, we need to differentiate that the economy is not the stock market and the stock market is not the economy, although they usually, go in lockstep with each other for the most part. So, the economy and how we measure growth is through GDP.
Which is?
Gross domestic product.
Which is
the growth of the U.S. market.
Right. It's the value of all the goods and services produced in the United States, and you're measuring from one period to another.
Yep. Yeah. So usually looked at over on a quarterly basis and then annualized out for the whole year. So, it's could be a measure of, the strength of the economy and the resilience of it. So I would certainly say, even through COVID and now, the economy has been pretty darn resilient. If you think what's been thrown at it, COVID in 2020, and then we had the quickest increase of interest rates in a short period of time in 2022. We had the inflation battle to go through. And through all that, and now we're in 25, we haven't gone into a recession. Now, I think for a quarter or something we did in 2020 just because everything got shut down. But I mean, really, we haven't gone through an actual recession. And, it's certainly on clients' mind, well, it has to be coming sometime soon. Well, I mean, sure, when we don't know, but current state of the economy right now, I mean, it's resilient. It's strong. Can it be stronger? Absolutely. But it could be a lot weaker given the current situation of what's going on.
Right.
So, going to what you said earlier, the market kind of behaved the way we thought it would with the tariff news, meaning that it was going to be some sort of emotional response, emotional overreaction. And that's exactly what we saw. It went down and recovered just almost as quickly as it went down. And here we are sitting with the S&P almost knocking on the door of double digits again. Who would have thought that, 3 months ago? I didn't. I thought we'd recover, but I didn't think we'd be, plus 10% almost.
Your crystal ball didn't tell you that this was going to
Man, it must have been foggy that day. But yeah, so we're sitting here and, tariffs being put in place. The first quarter GDP numbers came out and they were negative, right? Negative 0.5%. And in all the headlines you see, oh my gosh, it's happening already. The first quarter's negative, second quarter is going to be super negative. It's like, really? No, because the reason it was negative was the massive trade deficit we had because of the anticipation of the unknown of tariffs getting put in place and not knowing how it would react. People front-loaded some things, right? So, a lot of buying. That evened out here in the second quarter, and GDP came in better than expected. It was, estimated to be 2.5%. It came in at 3%. And you go back and look at the last 25 years since 2000. I mean, we kind of averaged almost that between that 2 and 2.5% GDP number. So, we are really kind of in line when what's expected for the next 2 quarters to be an average GDP situation, which I'm okay with given how the first quarter went this year. So
No question.
Yeah, but there's no doubt overall some areas are slowing in the economy. The housing markets could certainly use a little boost here. And, I think that's certainly one of many of the reasons why the administration is calling for a rate cut, because I think that could maybe help pick up that activity. I think the market is starting to actually price in that we might get a couple of rate cuts here by the end of the year, just because we're seeing 30-year mortgages start falling down to a year-to-date low right now. We're also seeing short-term CDs, short-term money markets, which is short-term anyways instrument. We're starting to see that back off those numbers too. So that just tells us trying to price in ahead of time what they think the market might do.
Right.
We look at inflationary is a big factor that people thought with the tariffs. So, kind of look at year-over-year numbers, which is published in the headlines. I think we're at 2.6, 2.7% year-over-year. At the beginning of the year, that number was anticipated to be a lot higher.
Right.
And to put that in perspective, our 50-year average is 3.7%. So we're below that number, but we're not at the Fed target rate of 2%.
Yep.
Until you look at the numbers year-to-date so far and annualize that out, we are right at 2%. So again, I think that's another reason the administration wants to be ahead of getting the interest rates cut down because, it's one of those snowball effects. If you're not in front of it, you're going to be behind it.
Right. So let me ask you this. So we have the luxury of seeing a lot of data. In fact, I think that's how we analyze things. We look more at data than we probably do news reports. I mean, our partners at First Trust, at Franklin Templeton, at JP Morgan, and a whole host of others, we get all sorts of data that our clients don't really have direct access to. They'd have to go hunting for it. Part of the problem that I see, and I want your take on this, Cody, is that because of the instantaneous nature of the news cycle and literally the polarization of the news cycle, you can turn on one channel at 5 o'clock and get one opinion on this economy, and then at 6 o'clock you get a 180-degree reverse opinion on this economy. How do we counteract that? What's your advice to clients on dealing with that bombardment of differing opinions, really polar opposite opinions in the media?
Oh, that's hard.
I know.
It's really hard to differentiate, what's real, and then when a spin gets put on it, because you're correct. We could about the economy, you could have one side saying, "Oh my gosh, it's horrible," and the other side saying, "Well, actually, it doesn't look pretty bad. It doesn't look bad at all."
Right.
I think you have to compare what is now versus what's been historically average, and not just over a 10-year period, but go back 50 years, go back 100 years. All the data that we talk about, it's all publicly available, but how to get it consolidated into one area is the hard part. I know JP Morgan out there, we use a guide to the markets a lot. They do have some of that information is publicly available. And all that is stats put together and then how you read it and how you interpret it.
Right.
Which, you can put the data together. There's really only one way to interpret it, and that's whatever the data says.
Typically, it tells a picture.
Yeah.
Right.
Certainly use our office as a resource because we do have access to that information. Differentiating that what's real and what's not real. I think that's going to become a big problem here. It's already, with the new AI stuff coming out with you upload a picture now and it makes a video of you. I mean, holy cow. That's
I just want to upload a picture and it'll make me skinnier.
Well, I'm sure they have that.
There's an AI for that.
And fix all this too. So
yeah, I think also, you mentioned instantaneous news too, right? How often is what comes out not exactly correct, and then they runs with that narrative,
right?
And how do you reverse that?
Right.
And even when it does come out with here's the correct information, people disregard it.
Right.
So it's hard. Right. It's tough.
Right. Yep. Awesome perspective. Okay, so this was a complete accident, but everything Cody just said is a great lead-in.
It really is, yeah.
So we had this recently from a client, but it's more than one client have expressed their question about this. Jerome Powell has been in the news a lot.
Once or twice, yeah.
With our fair president. So the question is, does Jerome Powell stay or go, and what does it mean if he goes?
Yeah, so I guess to Cody's point, I guess it depends on who you're listening to or who you're asking. Personally, our view here is that he will serve out his full term.
And for those of you who are smart enough not to watch the news, Jerome Powell is the Federal Reserve Chairman. So.
Yes. Yeah, so let's just touch on that while we're on that topic. So, yes, he's the Federal Reserve Chairman, serves a 4-year term. His 4-year term comes up here on May 2026. So, obviously, to Mark's point in the news, there's been lots of speculation as to will Trump fire him? What's he going to do? Don't think he's going to fire him. And then who does Trump choose to replace him in May? Lots of jockeying for that position. That's been in the news lately, too. We did recently have them come out with their recent decision where 2 Fed governors, I believe it was Bowman and Waller, actually dissented. So they chose to keep rates the same. They did not lower them.
Dissented on what? Just to clarify.
On lowering rates. So Bowman and Waller dissented, and what that basically means is they thought the Fed should have lowered rates. May not sound like a big deal just based on the headline, but that's actually the first time we've had 2 Fed governors dissent, going all the way back to 1993, I believe. So it's very rare to have anybody dissent, let alone 2. Usually the Fed wants to present a united front. Obviously, there'll be differences of opinion when they're debating whether or not, but once they've released their actual minutes, a lot of the times they all fall in line and vote in the same direction. That obviously didn't happen. As far as what's going to happen going forward, kind of Cody's points on rates, we do think there will be some type of rate cut, whether that's in September or later this year. I know there's been headlines now that the 2 dissenting Fed chairs want 3 rate cuts potentially by May of next year. So obviously we'll wait and see on that. Historically, predicting rate cuts has been a loser's game. If you look at the experts' prediction on rate cuts, they're usually off by quite a bit. I know JP has info on that in the Guide to the Markets. But we do expect them to go lower. To Cody's point on inflation, it has stayed lower. One of the biggest reasons they have not lowered rates is because of this anticipated inflation from the tariffs, which we just had the data come out again this morning, actually. And it was right in line. Actually, a couple pieces of the CPI were actually lower than expected. So we haven't got that huge inflation spike like many were predicting a few months ago. Again, back to narrative versus news, or narrative versus facts, as you would take it. So we're still not seeing that. If they continue not to see that, unemployment has started to tick up a little bit. So they're going to have to kind of weigh both those things, which is why we do think there'll be some type of rate cut later this year. How many obviously remains to be seen. But no, he's not going to get fired. At least we don't think so. And then we'll have to wait and see who the Senate confirms and who Trump nominates for the ongoing Fed board chair.
Interesting. So I guess a couple things I would take away from what you guys have said. Something like a child going off to college. There's always something from a financial perspective to be aware of. There's always a pothole to kind of worry about, right? And because of that, we go to the second question I asked you guys. Educating kids and grandkids to get them interested in this to some extent is important, right? Whatever methodology someone might use, it doesn't have to be complex like teaching them option strategy, although you certainly could. It's just getting the basics because that education is really not there, which means that everyone's ability to clearly see those potholes isn't always there. And I think the question relative to, post-tariff, if we're really in post-tariff economy, and what happens with Chairman Powell and interest rates and all that, this isn't an exact science, right? When it comes to trying to read the tea leaves and anticipate what kind of moves to make is typically a loser's game. Now, we need to watch it, right? Mm-hmm. But I think our strategies historically, I know our strategies, and I know the strategies you work with your clients on, whether it's from a financial or investment perspective, we try to create those strategies that will long-term produce results regardless of short-term decisions on the economy, on tariffs, on interest rates. Final thoughts there?
No, I think you nail on the head. Having a long-term strategy, kind of tuning out the noise of, tariffs, rate cuts, yes, that can move markets in the short term, but long-term, it's focusing on your goals, long-term portfolio strategy. So, as we like to say, tune out the noise and, ride out the waves, and good things usually come.
There's a lot of noise, my friend.
I'd say so.
Final thoughts, Cody?
Oh, boy. Well, we talked about turn off the news, get off the Twitter, because just the information is clouded, can be misleading. Especially we did have some people that were certainly on the fence, depending on the political side they were on, and they were really scared of the tariffs. And you just had to reaffirm with them, hey, this is maybe what's put in place, but I don't think that's where we're going to end here. And I think things will get better. And to make a rash decision like that, and if you would have got out, that you would be hurting right now.
Right.
I see how it happens, because I'll read stuff and I'm like, holy cow, and you go down a rabbit hole of getting more and more into it. And the bad thing is there's a lot of correct and good information out there. There's just as much bad and incorrect information out there. So deciphering that it's hard.
Well, the good news is, in closing, I don't think either one of you are going to have MSNBC or Fox News on tonight. What are you likely to watch tonight?
Netflix, I guess.
Or it could be some cartoon.
Go dog
or
go.
something.
Yeah, there you go. Go dog go.
Yeah.
Spidey. Girls like Spidey.
Oh, yeah.
What about you?
Nah, Spidey and his amazing friends. Yeah. I'll take that over Fox News or MSNBC any day, honestly.
All right, so I want to thank you for taking the time to listen in. Please, as always, if you have a friend, relative, brother, sister, parent, colleague at work that would benefit from this info, feel free to forward the link to the podcast. If you have any additional questions, the aforementioned friends, family, colleagues, shoot us an email, give us a phone call, use the text line. We're happy to walk any of you or your friends through any of these questions. As always, love the mailbag. You guys send in or bring some great questions to meetings, and we will look forward to seeing you next month.